Well, good to see everybody. Wow. Thanks for coming out this fine morning.
Recording in progress.
It's warm out there, isn't it? You notice that? And dark. If autumn is here, can winter be far behind? And Peter will be in fine shape. Well, here's the plan for this morning. We've got some distinguished guests with us, some candidates for office, and we'd like to devote the majority of our time to hearing from them. And I think we've got 6 candidates, so we performed some simple mathematical calculations, and I think we ought to be able to allocate about 5-6 minutes per candidate. And it's the time for them to do whatever they like. I mean, they can tell us about themselves, they can talk policy, they can take questions from the audience, some combination of any or all of the above. But we just like to open up the floor to you people and thank you for seeking office and being willing to put yourself out there and come to events like this. So that'd be the general scheme of things this morning. Hope that sounds all right. Peter Strauss, who was our point man on this, is going to turn the microphone over to him here in a few minutes. And then I'll turn the clicker over to Rick Hayes, and he'll keep some time. Maybe after about 4.5 minutes, he'll give you a click. And then at 5 minutes, he'll give you a couple clicks. And that'll be that. So, how's that sound? All right, everybody? Yeah.
Jim, could I have one more thing on?
Annie.
If you have questions, please start moving toward the front. I will do my best to get this microphone to you as you ask questions. But let's not, again, lose the questions in the back by not having it amplified. And having you visible is a helpful focus. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Drift forward. But we'll begin as we usually do with just kind of a round robin and go around the horn once and some announcements or invitations or what have you. See if anybody's got anything for the good of the order, as it were. And I think Dan Pocha has something for us. Dan the man.
Good morning.
Dan still got his shorts on, so winter has not quite arrived.
I'm not one of them distinguished guests. I'm just Daniel. And unlike Pete, I don't wear a hat. But I told my wife I'm going to get behind this here so nobody could tell that I wasn't wearing long pants. But I want to talk a couple minutes about, how important tomorrow is. And you all know why. It's a national holiday. It's Native American Day that ends in the week of Native American Recognition and Remembrance Week for the whole country. And if you get a chance tonight, the Maroon Lloyd has some really good stuff going on in honor of that thing. I won't be there because I'll be at the fairgrounds setting up for the powwow coming up. But when I got up this morning, I was listening to the news. And down in Billings today, they're going to have a gathering and a walk for our murdered and missing Indigenous people. And they listed 50 of them this morning that are missing and murdered. And it's a real tragedy in Indian country. And that wasn't the only thing that was heavy in my heart. I wore orange. That's in remembrance of our young children that went off to boarding school. And we don't know how bad that tragedy is. Tens of thousands of them children never made it home. You might have heard on the news earlier this week where Carlisle's going to send 3 of them bodies back to Montana, or have been sent back to Montana to be interred on native soil, because we believe your soul don't rest until it's put in the ground. We'll give it back to the earth in an honorable and traditional way. And I've had the misfortune of being part of one of those ceremonies. But it's things that they don't talk about. There's some children that were forced to go to school. Their parents weren't given many options. There was a policy in the United States, it started with Thomas Jefferson, that we should put these kids in boarding school and educate the Indian out of them, cut their hair off, make them white. But it didn't work. And one of the tragedies that is happening, you know, when parents would say, you're faced with starvation or sending your children off, and after a few weeks of hunger, you gave in, and they took these off. And that practice didn't end until the 1970s. And we live in a state that is pretty progressive. Because in 1972, when we got our new Constitution, the Montana put in a section in there that says we got to respect Native belief and stuff like that. And we're going to have a powwow this weekend. And the only reason we can have that powwow was because in 1978, the U.S. government passed the Native American Freedom of Religious Act. Up till that time, it was against the law for us to practice our religions and stuff openly. So these are things to keep in your mind, and maybe it's something these guys and your followers can think about today. Okay? Oh.
Hello, good morning. I'm Danielle, I'm with Grand Street Theater, and we are so excited. Tomorrow we kick off our fall season with The Woman in Black, which is directed by our Cal Cole back here. And next week we open a second show, Ken Ludwig's Moriarty, a new Sherlock Holmes adventure. If you were here in 2017, we did Baskerville, which was a huge hit, so if you enjoyed that one, come out and see the next installment that follows our two epic heroes of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Right now, we have 4 shows in rehearsal, which is involving almost 150 community members from around Helena, including our theater school. Now, there are still more ways that you can get involved as well, including 3 different ways. We're looking for ushers for both of these shows. So if you're looking for a way to see the show and help out the theater, you can come and volunteer to usher and be a welcoming face as people come in the door. Another way to be involved, this October, we are offering what we're calling GATE classes, Grand Street Adult Theater Education classes. And we have 2 throughout the month of October. We have a dance class and an acting class. So if you're looking to add more play to your life and to have a little bit something different, something new, go to our website and get registered. And the third way is to be a patron. Come and see our shows. Tickets are available online. We're also working to make sure that theater is accessible to all. So we are continuing our initiative of providing Wednesdays to be our choose your own price night. We do not want the price of a ticket to deter you away from seeking out live theater opportunities. So every Wednesday, you choose your price. The minimum price is a $5 ticket. So if you're looking for ways to bring the entire family that are going to break your budget, definitely look into our Wednesdays. I do have a few postcards with me if you need dates for shows or other information. I will have these available today. If you have any other questions, please seek me out. Cal is here as well, and we hope to see you down at Grand Street Theater.
Wow, thank you, Danielle. Thanks, Danielle. What a neat thing.
Hey,
Wednesdays. Go ahead.
I'm Katie Kelly. I'm a physical therapist out of Stone Tree Climbing Center, and I'm teaching a winter-ready class to get ready for ski season. When I decided to come here, I had quite a few spots left in it, but now there's just 1 spot left, so that's what I'm excited to. I have information. Come get it this morning and sign up because it'll be will fill. I also work with people one-on-one to get ready for ski season and other running, climbing, and then also help people recover from injury. So I have information about my business and the winter ready class as well. And would love to chat if anybody has any questions.
Wow. Katie, is it your understanding we're going to have a great winter this year?
It's going to be great.
Yeah, lots of snow. Yeah, lots of snow. Tim?
Good morning. Rick, you can get ready with your clicker because I have lots of Helena Food Share news today. First thing, there's a flyer on your tables about the 9th annual Sun Run. That's going to be Saturday, October 5th, starting at 10. You can run, walk, bike, whatever works for you. I have an address for you to come to where it's going to be. It's going to be 1280 Boulder, which is starting at our new building. So that's the home base for the Sun Run to go through the 6th Ward. If you would like to sign up, you can go to the Vigilante Runners website or Helena Food Share website and find your way there. And the most exciting thing is that the proceeds from this year's Sun Run will help us get solar panels on our building, which is super exciting. And then the rest of this, I'm just going to go, this is more about dates and times. So yesterday we moved our offices into the new building, which is exceptionally exciting. Thank you. Sing for applause for that. So next week we begin moving the rest of the building over, and we will be, this is the important part, it's about service and the folks that we are building this building to take care of. We're going to be closed next Thursday and Friday. We try to be closed as little as possible during this whole process. So we're going to be closed Thursday and Friday, the 3rd and 4th, to prepare for our first day of service to customers on October 7th, which we can clap for that. It's the real reason this whole thing is happening, and we're super excited. And then October 10th, come here for hometown. After hometown, you can come and we'll give you a tour of the building. It's exceptional. We had some folks in earlier this week. The board got, and the staff, some other folks got a preview tour, and it's phenomenal and exciting. And I just can't. When you see it, you'll understand. Almost can't even talk about it. Another piece of information, and Bruce will talk more about this when he comes to give his presentation on the 10th. You may have seen in the news, the board has selected the new executive director, Jordan Everts, and again, Bruce will have much more info about the transition when he comes to speak that week. For all of you, please join us on October 15th. We're going to have a ribbon cutting and an open house on Tuesday the 15th, starting at 4:30. Be prepared just to check out the building and walk through because we're anticipating a lot of you. It might not be a super hangout situation, but we want to get everyone through to see the building. And we're just so grateful to all of you in the community for helping make this much needed project happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk very briefly about saving democracy without talking about politics. My name is David Oaklander. It's great to see some of you again. I am a veteran. I served 23 years in the Army. Most of my time was at Fort Bragg, where Byron's son has made a career. And I commanded a battalion, 1,200 men and women, and I took them to Afghanistan. I was not able to bring home 9 of my kids. And that sticks with me every day. Every one of us, all 1,200, we served and sacrificed because we believed in the American ideal and our brothers and sisters standing to our left and our right. Our political system, not the people, but our system is doing exactly what it's designed to do right now, and it is not serving the American ideal, and it is dividing our communities. There are going to be a couple of reforms on the ballot this year, and the organization that I represent, Veterans for Montana Voters, which is part of a bigger movement called Veterans for All Voters, believes that election reforms will help return the power back to voters and rip it away from special interests and party bosses who are corrupting our system. That's the system that's working the way it's designed right now. There are only 6 sentences in the Constitution that guide us in how we're to run our elections. Prior to 1904, we had no primary system. It was party bosses, smoky rooms. The special interests are going to tell those party bosses who's going to represent us. It's no secret that after 8 kids were killed in a mine shaft in Butte, Montana jumped on the bandwagon that started in 1904 and changed that system and demanded primaries. Fast forward 120 years, special interests have gotten into our system again. Open primaries, top 4 going to the general election, and then demanding the winner of our elections to get to 50% plus 1 will remove the power from special interests and party bosses and force candidates to listen to the people and represent the people. When you have to get to 50% plus 1, you gotta represent a lot of those, not just small interests. So it's going to be on the ballot. It's CI 126 and CI 127. Veterans for Montana Voters is an endorsing partner of these initiatives. I put some flyers on your desks about the veterans movement, and I'll be here to answer questions about 126 and 127 after the event. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, David. Well, thanks for your service, Dave. And this would be a good time to mention the League of Women Voters is having a discussion of both these initiatives on October 7th. Is that right? Right, at the library at 5:30? 5:30. So Barb and Mickey and Connie, they've been working on this, so it'll be an opportunity to learn more. All right. Cal, how's the new job going? It's good to see you, Cal. Why don't you run that thing back to Cal Pool real briefly. Cal, good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been too long since I've been hanging out. Early Thursday morning, but it's a lovely opportunity. We've got a fabulous show coming up that's opening tomorrow night, Woman in Black, and I've just been having so much fun being back at Grand Street.
Back at Grand Street? Oh, okay.
Well, my day job is the director of the Montana Heritage Commission.
Right.
And so I work for the state, and I'm on the road a fair amount, back and forth between Virginia City, Nevada City, and Reader's Alley.
That's right. That's right.
So overseeing those properties and working to try and get some fun new life injected back into Reader's Alley, and hopefully I'll have some more news to share about that in the near future.
All right.
I'll be back.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the update.
Yeah,
good to see you, sir. All right. Well, what else we got this fine morning?
Legislative candidates.
Legislative candidates, yes. Well, I hope you candidates have enjoyed kind of the updates and the announcements and get a little feel for what's going on here in the capital city. Mr. Jones, back there?
We have a guest.
A what?
We have a guest.
A guest. Let's introduce our guest. And somebody's going to have to yell.
Head on up.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Jones. We usually like to introduce people.
Hi, good morning. I'm Helena. You can just call me Cor. I'm from the Philippines. And I'm a Mansfield scholar. And I'm here in Helena, but I'm based in Missoula. I'm here to observe and collaborate with the League of Women Voters. With the U.S. Department of State, they have this program in Southeast Asia because Mike Mansfield is a big Asian fan. So this program allows leaders all over Southeast Asia to come to the U.S. to understand democracy and strengthen U.S. Southeast Asian ties. And when we go back to the Philippines or to wherever we are in Southeast Asia, we create programs that we have observed here that would allow us to also promote democracy and all those kinds of values to promote common good. Thank you.
Wow. If you're the League of Women Voters, you're filling with a good bunch. I'll say that. All right. Well, I'm going to relinquish clicker to Rick Hayes. We got Peter at the podium, and Rick, take care of this now. Okay, so Peter, thank you for taking the point on this and inviting these ladies and gentlemen to be with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Jim, and once again, let me thank the candidates for. Thank you, Mary. This is not usually a problem for me. Let me again thank the candidates for putting themselves out there, for making the effort, for helping all of us, because that's what they're doing. They're sacrificing their time, their family time, their work time. They're making a difference in our community. So please join me in saying thank you to the candidates. So a couple of rules. We're going to go in numerical order, starting with Senate District 38, then House District 75, then 79, and I understand Representative Cafaro is here from House District 81. Mary Cafaro is not with us this morning, so she won't be here this morning. I'm also going to go in alphabetical order as opposed to political party order. This group, as you guys all know, is stridently non-political, and we will remain so. So with that, let me introduce the current incumbent, Senator Becky Beard from Senate District 38. And unfortunately for those who go in alphabetical order, I'm going to ask you to describe where your district is a little bit, if you would. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm first up, hot off the presses this morning. I am Becky Beard. I live in Elliston, and I am running for Senate District 38. I have previously been representing Senate District 40. We've had a bit of a district boundary change, so I will no longer be involved with West Helena. I am going to primarily be representing Powell County, Jefferson County, Granite County, and then precincts in Lewis and Clark County, Missoula County, and Deer Lodge County. So there's no way to drive all the way around in one trip. I have to go to point A to point B, point A to point C, and so forth. So I'm getting a few miles on the car, as candidate Benson would attest to. So it's interesting. As I said, I am living in Elliston. I'm the first house on the other side of the Lewis and Clark County line. Living on McDonald Pass, across from Golden Pass Turn-On. And I wanted to let you know that as I described the boundary of Senate District 38, that is outlined in my little flyer that I have on the table at the entry. So it's in there, you can take a look at it. It's quite interesting and a lot of fun because I'm getting to meet a lot of new people. Now I'm running on the same priorities that I have run on in the last 4 sessions that I've been in the legislature. My priorities are also listed on the front of my handout. I am absolutely for smaller government. We need to re-inject the people in our government process. I want to look at educational opportunities, not just for inputs, but for outputs. We need to bolster our education ranking system so we have more productive students successfully graduating from schools. I am absolutely for infrastructure priorities. We need to take care of our farm-to-market roads, our roads that get the school buses from the homes to the schools. We need clean water and sewer, and we need bridges. I am also looking for ways to promote better, high-paying job development in our state. We're losing our natural resource industry, and those jobs paid a lot and generated a lot of tax revenue for our state. So you're seeing now property tax rates going up. Has anybody, I see it, show hands. How many people notice property tax increases? That's a huge issue, and we are working on it. Revenue Interim Committee, for which I chair, is looking at the governor's recent task force report with 12 recommendations to address that very issue. And I am also fifth-generation Montanan from rural, central, and north central Montana. I'm a hunter, an archer, and I'm a Second Amendment advocate. I definitely want to protect our Second Amendment. Now we're talking about participation in our government. All of you here are working on just that. You're participating in the government process. We need our residents to participate as well. We need to see you at our hearings. We need your testimony, because if you let government politicians take care of business, you see where it gets us. So my contact information is inside the brochure. I do respond to my constituents who get a hold of me, and I appreciate the input and the interaction. So, with that, I thank you.
Also from Senate District 38, Jeff Benson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jeff Benson, and I'm running for Senate in Senate District 38. And I'm from Boulder. My wife and I formerly lived here in Helena, and our kids grew up here. But unfortunately, how things work, you know, corporate life takes you other places in the world. So I've been pretty much throughout. I've worked for a lot of corporations as an advisor and a consultant, globally and domestically. So having said that, my great-great-grandfather settled homestead in Montana, and as my grandfather says, just shortly after the custard debacle. So they set roots in eastern Montana, where they farmed, and my great-great-grandfather was part of the Hunter project in developing the irrigation systems there. So why am I running? Well, first of all, if things were running great, I wouldn't be running. So I was a little upset last year, or when I attended the property tax meetings, and there were a lot of unanswered questions, and the more digging I did, the more concerned I became, and then I opened my mouth, and people said, you ought to run for office. So here I am. And in doing so, I thought that the government would solve this issue, but they didn't. And so now I'm jumping in. We had a $2.4 billion surplus. And the first thing our legislature and governor said is, let's give the rich people and out-of-state corporations $1 billion. They didn't say, let's help the people out. I saw people in the meetings that were worried about how they're going to pay their increased tax burdens. But the legislature did absolutely nothing. In fact, my opponent even said that this is a complicated issue and we should wait for the next legislature to address that. And that was in our op-ed to the record. So, knowing that they gave $1 billion away, the next thing that they brought up is, let's have a tax cut. So my opponent wrote a bill giving a $200 million income tax cut. 75% goes to the upper 1%. So if you're making $40,000, you got a couple of kids, you maybe got $40. That doesn't seem right to me. That doesn't seem like government's working for me. That tells me the government's working for the elite, the special interests. So having said that, we've got our seniors. They're greatly impacted. Nobody's doing anything for them. Well, I propose that we do a tax freeze. For those seniors on the property taxes, we freeze their property taxes. I went out and I took a look at what our surrounding states are doing. And they're doing something for our senior citizens. So in Montana, I think that we should freeze the property taxes for senior citizens. I'm not saying it's a giveaway. They continue to pay the taxes, but we freeze it at the level when they retire. And then when the property is sold down the line, then it goes back in the system at the new rate. That's one thing that we can greatly do. Other things, that the tax system has tilted towards the upper end. And there's very little for the working people. I'm here for the working guys, our tired people, I think there's a lot our government can do that we haven't done. And hopefully, in November, I'll be your new senator, and we'll get things fixed, and I'll get your money back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Just a fast announcement as well, so that you all know. We invited every candidate from the regional area for the state house races, that is the state house of representatives and the state senate. So the folks who are joining us today are the ones who have responded to us, but everybody was invited. With that, let's move on to House District number 75. And Nancy Jane Lee, you're up. Ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Jane Lee.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be invited to this because sometimes in my district, which I guess I'm to explain when I get the mic first, is a large one, not as large as Senate District 38, because, you know, there's two districts my size in that. But it goes all the way from Pipestone to Montana City, from Mason and Elk Park, all the way to Townsend. So it's the North Boulder, and it's it's the North Boulder, so it's a pretty common recreational area for all of us all across Montana. I threw my hat in the ring for a lot of the reasons, I guess, that Jeff iterated, and that is that I watched the Montana legislature last year concentrate on culture war issues and things that had nothing to do with the business of running the state of Montana. You know, our schools, our roads. I have a long history in politics of representing women's rights. I lobbied for the Montana Women's Lobby when I was young as the Catholic mother of four. And I also served as an intern at Montana's Constitutional Convention, not to date myself, but when we were interns at that laudable event, there was no budget for a staff, so each committee had its resource assistant, but they relied on all their research from us interns, and they selected 12 students from the universities around Montana. And it was, I need to say, pre-word processor, pre-cell phone days too, you know, so let's just say that a lot of the language we now appreciate in the Constitution came from myself and my fellow interns, because we would put the language in front of committee members. Another really great thing about that body, and it was brought up here several times about the need for nonpartisan government, is that those delegates sat in alphabetical order. They didn't sit by political party. And so they were able to discuss amongst themselves a real citizen solution to problems. And that's another reason that I want to run, because my resume includes that for 37 years and 11 months of Hoos County, I ran a Main Street business. It was a retail lumberyard. So I've virtually been in the construction business for, you know, probably longer than most of you have been alive. But I currently work in the contracts and supply chain part of the oil and gas industry. I supervise the construction of natural gas and pipeline facilities. And part of my job is permit compliance. And my superpower, another reason that I think people like me should run for office and should be considered for office, is that in my business career and in my natural resources career, I have been able to look at columns of numbers up to billions of dollars. Currently, I manage nearly $800 million in construction contracts. That's about 20% of the state budget. And I'm able to look at columns of numbers, select duplications, and find performance indicators. And I just hope that people give me a chance to work for the citizens of my county. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to the candidates, the single click is the running out of time. The double click is you're done. Then, of course, there's a vote. So it's a pleasure to welcome Luke Moskowitz who's running in House District number 79.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for sharing your time with all of us today. My name is Luke Miskevich. I'm running for House District 79.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I was going to also introduce my opponent, Jill Sark, who has many advantages over me, but one of them is you can actually pronounce her last name. So again, that's Luke Miskevich. Just don't focus on how it's spelled. So House District 79. You can think of it as West Helena, but it's a little bit more interesting than that. It includes kind of that Upper West Side historic part of Helena. It also includes a big section of the North Valley between Sierra, Lincoln, Montana, and Green Meadow, and then kind of everything west. It actually goes up to Mac Pass, includes Remini, wraps around south, includes Unionville, South Hills, a little section of Jefferson County. So it's a big district that I have just really enjoyed getting to know in the past 6 months since I announced my candidacy, actually here at hometown Helena. So it's been a whirlwind. I was born and raised here in Helena. I lived most of my life in Montana. I was graduated from Carroll College, and I had the honor of raising a family here with my wife, Virginia. Virginia is an author, and she's also a professor here at Helena College. My two daughters both graduated, my oldest daughter graduated from Helena High, and then my youngest daughter is a senior this year. So I've had, the gift of getting to raise a family here in Helena, and I know what that means to so many people who live here. I have graduated with a degree in computer science. I worked in the private sector as a software engineer and data analyst for almost 25 years. And I think that work is helpful in informing technology policy, but also just diving into data and making sense of the facts and figures. So in 2017, I ran for the Helena School Board, and I served for 6 years. I was chair of the board for 3 years through the pandemic, and that's where I learned that you've reached compromise when everybody in the room is mad at you. So in 2023, I retired from the board, took a little break, and decided that it was time to get back in the game and continue advocating for public education at the next level. So that is first and foremost why I declared as a candidate for House District 79, and that will be my priority in the next session if given the opportunity to serve. Public education is so important, as is everything, all the investments we make for our children. And I think if you look across Montana, you see districts that are struggling with one of two things, sometimes both. They either have budget deficits that they're dealing with, or they have recruitment and retention issues with their teachers and other educational staff. I contend it's the same problem. And it means that unfortunately our public education institutions are underfunded and they need additional resources. So that will be a priority for me. We have some amazing opportunities both with the next session and the decennial study, every 10-year study of the school funding formula. I really want to be a part of that. The other thing I'm hearing when I'm talking to people on the doors is property taxes. Other candidates have alluded to that. Yes, we need property tax relief for people, especially people who, residential property owners who live in their own homes as their primary residences, especially for our retired folks on fixed incomes, and of course, the people who are moving to Helena trying to buy their first home. But I realize that I can't just come up here and say we need to increase public investment and reduce taxes. Okay, that will be a difficult balance. That is what you are electing all of us to do, and it would be an honor for me to serve and represent HD 79 and the Greater Helena Valley. You can find out more about me at lukeformontana.org. Nope, I kept the last name out of that one. And I did bring a brochure. I brought a couple magnets. You can stick them on your car if you want, or you can just find whatever old truck Matt Elsasser drove and stick it on there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. I noticed we've got a couple of candidates on the Zoom, and I'm going to invite you guys to join us as well after we hear from the candidate for House District 79, Jill Sark. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for being with us.
As he mentioned, my name is Jill Sark, and I'm running for House District 79. I kind of have gotten to know Luke, and first thing I asked him when I met him was, how old were you when you learned to spell your last name? But I have gotten to know him, and one thing I was just thinking as he was up here talking, I wish we both could win, because we have good ideas between us, I think. But I'm old enough to be your mom. So I'm Jill Sark. I'm going to tell you about me, where I'm from. And if I get a chance, I'll talk about some Medicaid policies. Senator Beard and Senator Dunlop was involved last session with some bills with them. You see, I'm almost nonpartisan because I work on both sides. So I'm from the Eureka, Montana area. I'm third generation. Grew up in a little tiny town called Rexford. Two of my great-grandparents homesteaded there, so I'm related to most everybody. And I'm really lucky. I had my grandparents, I had aunts, uncles, cousins. I had a great life growing up. Everybody were loggers, they're hard workers, and I learned a good work ethic. I first started working for the state of Montana, moved to Libby, and I started as a receptionist. I had two little boys, I was single, so I didn't go to college, even though I had some scholarships, I didn't go. So I worked my way up. I was at the Office of Public Assistance. Ended up moving to Kalispell when the boys were junior high. They graduated high school 98, 99. And then I came to Helena, and so I know you, is I was managing the food stamp program, and I worked through, I don't know, about 7 years there. Then I went to the state auditor's office, and I managed a program called Insure Montana. And it provided insurance subsidies for small businesses and their employees. When the Affordable Care Act was passed about 7 years later, the legislature here did not renew the funding for Insure Montana. So I went back to DPHHS, and for the last 8 years I worked as the bureau chief for Community Services Bureau. And in that bureau I managed Medicaid programs for elderly and persons with disabilities to help them stay in their home as long as possible rather than go to an institution. I retired in June, I almost said I graduated. I retired in June of 2022. But my heart is still with the elderly and persons with disabilities. And I have several good ideas, I think are good, of bills that we could pass that would not only save the state money, but also help more people. I mean, it's not often that goes together, but I'm doing good on time. So Senate Bill 296, that was one of those bills that would have saved $2.5 million a year. About 120 legislators voted for it, but it was vetoed. The veto override was missed by just a little bit. Senator Dunlop's bill was great. It was a study bill, and we didn't quite drag it across the finish line, but that's time. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the continuation of care is really important for elderly, and as a senior citizen now, I really feel that way. But I have information over here if you want to learn more about me. I have a website. But one thing I do want to say is both my sons are veterans. They went directly to the Marine Corps and fought in wars. And yesterday I found out my grandson will be 19 tomorrow. He's joining me. So.
Thank you so much. We've got two candidates on the Zoom, Rachel Cottrell and Representative Julie Dooling. And in all honesty, I forgotten which district you're running in, so I'm going to go alphabetically again. So Rachel, if you'd like to join us and say a few words through the Zoom, you're more than welcome.
Peter, thank you, but I'm not running for you.
Thank you so much. You know, we really should get a volunteer who's competent. Representative Doolin, if you'd like to join us by Zoom, you're more than welcome.
Thank you, Peter. I'm actually scheduled to speak next week, and I was just listening in to see what all the candidates were talking about today.
You know, I've seen my work, I'm not sure I will hire you.
Think of the time you're saving.
So, thank you so much, Representative, and Rachel, my apologies again. So let me open it up for questions for any of the candidates, and again, thank them for the time, the effort they're putting in for all of us. While we're formulating our questions, let me also introduce John Driscoll. Don't get old. Something happens, but I forget. So it can't be important. John Driscoll is running for U.S. Congress in our district. Andy Hunthausen is running for Lewis and Clark County Commissioner. We've got Senator Mary Ann Dunwell, who's an incumbent. Her district is not up this time.
Yeah, I don't have to run.
Wes Feist is running in House District 83. He'll be here next week as well. Are there any other candidates that I missed?
Lisa Callio with the Clerk of District Court.
Lisa Callio with the
Clerk of District Court.
Clerk of District Court. Thank you so much. My apologies. So do we have any questions from the audience?
For Senator Beard, sorry if I missed this, did you say whether or not you support removing Medicaid expansion?
Thank you. Medicaid expansion is a hot item on many people's list of priorities. I want to wait until we get into the legislature and look at all the costs that are being amassed on all the priorities that we have in the state of Montana. And I'm going to reserve judgment on how I'm going to vote on that. But it's one of those issues that's going to be contentious, and we might have to look at how we're going to pay for everything else on top of that. So thank you very much.
No, go ahead, Mary. Hi, guys. I'm curious about the candidates' views about funding for private schools using public funds.
Let's go in the same order. Senator Beard, if you would be so kind to start us off.
Thank you for that question. That's another hot topic and one closer to my heart. We have a lot of attention put on inputs for education, and we're seeing student scores falling, and we have a lot of our students, our youth, falling through the cracks because our traditional education system does not address their particular needs. So I'm saying that we need to look at putting more focus on the outputs. We need to focus on our children. No Child Left Behind is kind of letting kids fall through the cracks. And I would like to see funding following our students, because the funding that we pay for education, 57% of your property tax bill is going to pay for education. We need to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Benson.
Well, I'm totally opposed of using public money for private schools. I think that's a violation of our Constitution, and I stand firmly against that. On the other hand, I think that we've grossly, inadequately funded our schools. The last legislature gave our schools like 3.5% when inflation was running near 12%. That was a recipe destined to fail. Our funding mechanism for our schools, we left our kids behind because we didn't properly fund them as we guarantee in our Constitution. So to answer the question, no, I do not want my tax dollars going to some private school, a religious school, or a corporation. So I think it's best served with the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Nancy?
Ditto what Jeff said. Even though when I do my door knocking, I find there's some concern out there with the public schools. People want teachers to be paid more, number one. But I think one thing the money following the student fails to realize is that buildings and buses are very expensive, and that often we find school boards, especially under the new options that were available, kind of lateraling the responsibility to third-party organizations. Then we run into certification and quality of education. And I really think that it's best to improve our public education system, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and allow parents options that they choose, they can afford and have access to.
Thank you. Luke? Camera behind you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Absolutely oppose using public money for private education. And I will just say that I think there is a narrative that our public education, or public schools are somehow not innovative, that they're set in their ways and they aren't adapting to meet the needs of students. I just think that's absolutely untrue. And if anybody holds that belief, I would actually welcome you into any of our public schools. Pick a small district, pick a large district, pick Helena, and you will see that that is absolutely not true. So I think our public schools are innovative, and they're meeting the needs of students. And what they need most of all, in addition to high expectations, which I think already exist, are the resources to do that job more appropriately. Thank you.
And if you could run it out to Jill Stark.
Well, we don't agree on everything, though. I'm a product of Lincoln County High School in Eureka. My grandpa actually graduated from there in 1970. All aunts and uncles. I'm not saying I have a problem with public education. My boys graduated from Flathead High School. Very successful. But I think as I've gone door to door, and I don't know if any of the other candidates have heard this, but I've been asked to support charter schools so parents have a choice. And that has come up over and over again. I ask a lot of questions because I didn't have any problems with my kids going to public school when they went. I didn't have a problem. Well, my principal might have thought I had. I didn't have it. But I do support charter schools. Montana is one of the last states that brought on a charter school. And as I did the research, I found out that it does, a charter school, the bill that passed, that one didn't end up going into court, the bill that passed, the charter school bill that passed, does include the local school board too. So it's, I think it fits within our Constitution, our Montana Constitution.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you to all of the candidates. And I'm going to make you run around.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Pete, and thanks all of you for organizing it and being here. This is a really good discussion to hear from our elected officials. Senator Marianne Dunwell, I am a holder, and I am prepping for what shouldn't be a fight in this coming session, the Medicaid expansion. Senator Beard, you answered the question from Eric Dietrich. I wonder if the other candidates can answer the same question. How do you feel about renewing Medicaid expansion? And knowing that for 10 years, it has been a lifeline for rural hospitals, for our economy, for small businesses, for workers. I could go on and on, but I'm getting the hook.
So you're not running.
And then the other. I know, I'm sorry. No, you're right. But the second part of the question is how do you feel about continuing it? So few years, few sessions, we don't have to come back and have this silly fight. Thank you.
So I'll
Mary-
summarize the question, make sure I get it right. Are you in favor of Medicaid expansion or Medicare expansion in this session and then eliminating the sunset going forward? Is that correct?
That's pretty much
Oh,
it.
very good.
It's Medicaid expansion.
Medicaid.
Medicare. Yeah,
We should get somebody competent to do this.
it's Medicaid expansion.
Right.
We're not talking about the general Medicaid, we're talking about Medicaid
Medicaid
expansion for working
expansion,
Montana.
and then get rid of the sunset. Okay. So, Ms. Beard, do you want to take a shot at the second question?
Thank you, Senator Dunlop. Well put.
We're practicing our debates.
Yes, we are. So the extending the dates and taking off the sunset, I think is irresponsible because we all need to be cognizant of where our tax dollars are going and what they're funding. And if we just give carte blanche to extending the payouts without every sunset date re-examining what it's going for and how we can perhaps offset other opportunities for our disabled, handicapped, or ill community members who need more help, we need to look at more options other than just extending more tax dollar payouts. So I'm not in favor of just taking off the sunset. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Benson?
We have 5 minutes left, so if everyone can be brief in their responses.
Well, I'm very
Give
pro.
1 minute.
I'm very pro Medicaid expansion. There's a lot of reasons why. Medicaid expansion is just not a welfare program. If you take a look at it, there's a lot of working Montanans that are now eligible for Medicaid due to income and other circumstances. Medicaid expansion actually is showing that it's keeping people away from our emergency rooms, getting them preventative care, and actually lowering the cost of medical expenses to the families. So Montana's contribution is really about 1/10 of it. So the federal government is picking up the bill, and there's already a Montana law that says if the federal government changes the rules, then we're going to have to revote on it. So I think eliminating the sunset would give a lot of people, take a lot of ease off the pressures of the financial needs. And I think a lot of businesses depend on Medicaid expansion because they supplement their employees with it. I've talked to a couple of large businesses here in Helena, and they've got employees, even though they offer healthcare, they have employees taking advantage of Medicaid expansion. So Medicaid expansion, if not renewed, is going to close our rural hospitals, our rural safety net that we have. So I think it's very important for us as a state to step up and expand this. Thank you.
Nancy? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, same. In fact, for my county, it's really important because we rely on satellite offices to provide a lot of our health care, and especially it's important for third-party healthcare providers, which has to do with home health care, rehabilitative, preventive care. Those suppliers really depend on Medicare. And like you just said, it's just kind of a low price tag. And I think that, you know, government has some high priorities, education, you know, taking care of the disabled. So not sunsetting it just seems that, you know, who can argue with that?
Luke?
Yeah, I absolutely support renewing Medicaid expansion. I will not belabor the many reasons why it's a good idea. I will say, though, that I oppose adding sunset, and I think one thing we need to think about is there's only 90 days in our legislative session every other year. And if we are going to relitigate this issue, it is going to take up a lot of oxygen, a lot of time, a lot of resources, and this can prevent us from having the hard discussions and passing important legislation for the other issues that are critical to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you turn it back to Jill Sark.
In the late 1980s, I was the eligibility worker for general assistance and general assistance medical. So I've worked with this population. and I think it might have been 89, the state closed down those programs. And so there were the problems of people going to emergency rooms because they didn't have any coverage. How I look at Medicaid expansion today, though, it's much larger than that. And I have some substantial changes that would need to be made to the policy before I could get behind it. For example, there's no resource limit. So you can have $100,000 in the bank and be eligible. There's no reason why you can't have good policy and still help people and do both. As far as sunset, in the property tax task force recommendations, and I have to say that slowly, they suggested a 10-year sunset on levies. And so I understand what Luke's saying about, oh, you don't want the legislature debating this every session, but maybe every 10 years. So I would support a sunset that was 5-10 years out.
Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking all of the candidates. Before you all take us home by saying we are extraordinarily lucky here in Helena and the surrounding areas to have such dedicated people working for all of us. So thank you again.
Peter, thanks for managing this process. Annie, thanks for managing the microphones. There might be something good back at the canteen there. Grab a stroller or cinnamon roll on your way out the door. And Mr. Jones, I hope our guest from the Philippines got some insight into our democratic process here in little old Helena, Montana. Thank you for being with us, and I hope you take a good report back home with you. Thanks, everybody.